Shall we review the minutes that Joe put together from last month? Did everybody get a chance to read them?
I didn't see that. I didn't look at the minutes, but if my phone number and that information is in the minutes, could you take it out? I gave it to you, our contact information.
I believe we redacted it. Let me just double check.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
It's not in the minutes.
Yeah, it's not in there.
Awesome.
Your secrets are safe.
Don't worry.
I thought it seemed good. I didn't think that we were going to do pre-registration for the event. Excuse me. I thought it was just the questions.
Yeah. I think that's correct. I think we talked about pre-registration, but it was going to be open, so.
Yeah.
Do we want to change the way that's worded?
Pre-registration.
It says might be.
Yeah, that's true.
We didn't do it.
That's true. It does say might be. Everything else looks fine.
Yeah, looks good to me.
Anybody want to move to approve them?
Move to approve them.
Thank you. Anybody want a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Dan. Dan seconded. Minutes are approved.
Great.
News about Concord Farms and Farmers. Well, we had a lovely tour with Colonial Gardens. Thanks to Happy for setting that up.
Sorry not to be able to go.
Tell us about it.
Let's see, who was there? Me and Melissa were there. Like, who else was? Oh, Lois was there too. It was great. It was nice. Got to see all their greenhouse production and like get all their timing to get everything ready for the different holidays. It was pretty cool.
And we maybe convinced David to do one of the short films, maybe on a particular aspect of greenhouse production. Like they do a lot of potting up from cuttings and things that not everybody does, so that could be interesting.
I hope he does that.
Yeah, it would be cool.
How many people were on the tour?
I think there was like 18.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Good.
It was the pollinator committee showed up, so there was a fair amount of them, and then yeah, there was a lot of farmers too.
Yeah,
it was cool. I mean, we don't do any like bedding flowers like that, so it's really fun to see.
Yeah,
definitely sounds risky though for like trying to hit like Mother's Day, like the big, you know, if you miss Mother's Day, then it's gone.
yeah.
You know, they had lilies getting ready for Easter, so timing on all that stuff is very tight.
Right.
It was very cool. Anybody else have anything else going on?
Plus Hutchins greenhouse.
It's not really online yet, but it's pretty much put together. We're just trying to plug it in basically to propane and electricity. But we're mostly there. I mean, I anticipate needing it mostly in April for now anyway. Like we've gotten by with the greenhouses that we have for as long as we have. And we're not really expanding things in a dramatic way. So this year I'll be exploring, what that greenhouse allows us to do and whether it makes sense to do lots more plants for sale or who knows what.
Hmm.
I think we're going to try grafting cucumbers this year.
Seriously?
Grafting cucumbers, really?
Yeah, because we always have this situation where we plant our cucumbers way too early, and so many of them die, even without freezing temperatures, just with low temperatures.
Right.
And so if you graft onto a, top work a cucumber onto a squash, the squash we don't have any problem with. They go
Yeah.
in, they survive almost 100%. So it would just be like, hugely more. Cucumbers are great and they're very marketable, but they're kind of tricky to produce. Like late in the season, you get diseases,
Right.
but early in the season, it's you're free if you can get them to survive.
So what's involved in grafting them? Is it like a tree or?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like you have a squash seed of a certain variety that's kind of known to be a rootstock, and then you basically use that as a rootstock, and you cut the cucumber plant up below the cotyledons, and you cut the other one so that it's it forms the root system, and you try to get them to get along and become the same plant. And we'll see. I'm just going to do it for the very first planting.
So does it then produce a squash and a cucumber from the
No,
seed?
squash is essentially the squash is just the root.
I see.
So the
That is
squash
so
doesn't have an
interesting.
opportunity because of the way that you cut it. It doesn't have an opportunity to produce like a top part of the plant that would flower, and the same thing goes for the cucumber, which doesn't have an opportunity to produce roots.
Oh my goodness.
But they work together. Yeah, that's how that's apple trees and it's very common on tomatoes and stuff like that. But who knows? It might be a complete failure, in which case I won't be talking about it anymore.
I hope you'll document it and put it on your website or on Instagram.
Only if it works, Emily.
Only if it works.
Otherwise, we're not talking about it again.
That's right.
I used to have tons of trouble with like earlier cukes, and we were just planting them, excuse me, essentially later and later until we got the high tunnel.
Yeah,
And that just like solved
Makes a
all
big
those
difference, yeah.
problems.
So that's where you plant your early cukes.
Yeah, it's like early and main season. They're incredibly productive. We don't really push it like crazy early, but it is, yeah, they're just a lot less work for the early ones.
yeah.
And
Do you have any less disease, cucumber beetle in the high tunnel as opposed to doing it outside?
no, we do have disease problems in there, and we put up nets we didn't see a ton of cucumber beetles, but we put up nets because we had other diseases, and we figured they were like maybe coming from cucumber beetles, but it wasn't like an infestation. That was but we do get diseases in there, but it's not until later when it's fairly easy to grow cucumbers in the field. So we haven't quite solved it, but we also it's not at the critical time. So
That was one advantage. It was so dry last year that it was like the cucumber beetles were sort of kept at bay by just how dry it was, at least on our farm. There weren't that many
yeah.
compared to other years.
One thing I was wondering, everybody, does anyone know where Steve is? And should I call him?
Yeah, I was wondering that.
I always feel bad when I don't call because usually he means to come. So maybe I'll just mute and call him while we keep going in case he wants to join.
Good idea.
Yeah. That's all about the greenhouse.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, you guys can continue. I'll just try to give them a call.
I feel like we need you for the next thing, so call Steve.
I had another question while Melissa's on the call. About the series of talks through Village University on Concord farmland. I know Steve spoke, and didn't Lise?
I think Lise was going to talk. I don't know.
These did, yeah.
I'm embarrassed that I have all of the recordings, but I was able to attend like just part of Steve's and very few of the others from start to finish. But it did seem as if people liked it. Joe, did you go?
I watched both of those. I think I've watched 3 of them so far. And they are recorded, so they're available. You can queue them up, and I don't know, the Ag Committee was well represented by its spokespeople.
Melissa, did you reach him?
Yes, Steve is coming.
Okay.
He said time slipped away. Yeah,
Oh, I
so
forgot.
he'll be here. Yeah.
Emily, what are the meetings you talked about?
Well, there was a series that the so-called Village University, which is connected with the Adult and Community Ed program. See, I think a 5 or 6 part series of talks on farming and farmland in Concord from the beginning. So starting with indigenous farmers and going through, Ben Elliott gave the last talk about Saltbox and both, the farm, the business.
Is this through the Adult Education Department in Concord, or what is this through?
Yes.
Okay.
Whether the recordings are available on their website, I don't know, but I had signed up for the course, and having signed up, I got the recordings. But it would be worth asking, because I think actually they talked about depositing them at the library somehow, making them available through the library, maybe through special collections, because it was a historical overview.
Cool.
Ambitious.
Do you know how many more there's supposed to be, or?
The series is finished.
Oh, okay.
It has wrapped up. But I don't know. I mean, I think if they knew people were interested in catching up with it after the fact, that might inspire them to make them more widely available.
Sounds like it's worth looking into.
Anybody else have anything going on?
So who has what seeds in the ground, or not in the ground, but in the greenhouse?
In the greenhouse, yeah.
Yeah.
We have onion started, leek started, artichoke started, all the perennial herbs,
Wow.
flowers. I'm not quite sure what else.
Right.
Oh, parsley, celeriac.
Huh.
The super hot peppers that take forever to.
Yeah.
One's only the hot sauce guys want.
Yeah, that only. Well, that's a good market, I think.
It's turning into one.
What's the pickle place in Vermont? We sell pickles from someplace in Vermont. Oh, damn, I can't think of the name of it.
Real Pickles is Western
Real
Mass.
Pickles, are they Vermont?
No, they're Western Mass.
Oh, okay. Anyway, they make a hot sauce. And, people come in the stand and they say, are these really hot? And I was saying, yes, they are. That someone told me they're not, and they're not even remotely hot.
No.
You can literally drink it out of the bottle, and it's like,
Well,
I think it's hot for Americans, maybe, but we have, a lot of
Yeah.
people coming in from Central America. And it's just really hot, and I said, yeah. I'm a little embarrassed because
you gotta try it.
I
Well, I'll tell you, I've bought so many jalapenos from grocery stores in the last 3 months that have absolutely no heat. Like you could just eat it. It's just a green pepper. It's nothing. It's not even a jalapeno. I don't even understand it. I don't know who to talk to. I don't know who to complain to. The farmer? I want to go in and try one, like before I buy.
you should be
But I
able
feel
to.
embarrassed, But yeah, no, so I feel you.
I think that's the thing though, like New Englanders don't really like hot food.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, we've been selling like crack sauce sometimes. Like we sell a lot of peppers to him. And some of his stuff is very hot. And some of his stuff is really mild. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
I think the other big hot sauce guy though just closed up shop. So I'm sort of curious what's gonna happen.
Barry's?
Yeah,
Oh,
Barry
no.
closed. Yeah.
There's a line of hot sauce bros just waiting, I think.
They're all bros. Yep.
Waiting to break into the
Fill that
marketplace
niche. Yep.
with me, I'm included.
You're gonna start your own too.
Yes.
Should we move on to the spring forum discussion?
Sure.
Sure. Melissa, you want to talk about logistic update on where we are?
Yeah, sure. So the email I sent had most of it, which is that we've switched to Wednesday, April 26th because of that conflict on the original March date. And so we have the auditorium from 6 to 9. We've been advertising 7 to 8:30 as the main event. So we have plenty of time for setup and a little bit of close up time. Our main speaker, Sam, can obviously make it. I checked with her. And then the panel is going to be Anna from Gaining Ground agreed, who we had been hoping would do it. Mark from Saltbox, he's actually left Saltbox, but still going to do it. Because he had a good perspective, because he's done both no-till and traditional tillage, and also was kind of thinking about that something in between would maybe be best in the future for Saltbox. I just thought he would be kind of the in-between, and then Steve from Veril to offer that perspective. So yeah, I told them, but we could talk about what we want to tell the panelists. Like, to start with, that we have a presentation by Sam that'll be like 45 minutes. And then each panelist wouldn't really have to talk for too long before we open it up for questions. Like, Anna was asking like how much she had to prepare. And I thought just like, 5 minutes or something, just explaining what each of them have experienced, and then when people ask questions, the appropriate person of all those people could help answer.
Mhm.
But we could discuss what we wanted to ask of them.
Might be good to come up with like some questions.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Oh, yeah, or like within their little talk, the things to cover, so it's like has some form maybe. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Who is your lead speaker?
Sam something from UMass Extension.
Okay.
Let me look, I can look her up.
I don't remember her name off.
So he's a professor?
She is
She's a researcher.
researcher, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
She attended our ag meeting in January.
Mhm.
I think that's
Yeah,
right,
I think
to like get an idea of how she should be crafting her talk.
Has there been communication?
Yeah,
Yes, so I sent her an email with the updated title and things that we had talked about at the last meeting in terms of the like content and tone we were looking for. We could follow up again though, especially if we have some questions we definitely want the panelists to answer. Hi, Steve.
My apologies.
No problem.
I've had a mountain of communication issues lately. I had to come down to the farm stand to log in.
Oh, no.
Hi, Steve.
Steve, we're just talking about the spring forum.
Yeah,
Before we talk about we were just discussing maybe coming up with some questions we wanted all the panelists to answer. The other logistics are that so Sam is going to bring her own computer, and she told me what type. And then Dan's got the projector and the screen. And hopefully we have a cord that connects those two. Let me see what she says. She has a PowerPoint presentation that she'll bring on her PC laptop.
okay.
Yeah, we should have, I'll bring a bunch of cords. We should
Okay.
have.
Do we need a microphone for this?
I could probably, talk to Bobby's father about bringing a sound
don't-
system. I don't know if we
What's
need.
the
one.
venue again? It's in West Concord.
Yeah, at the Harvey Wheeler. I think we've done it
Great.
without a microphone and with maybe in the past. It was
Big
so
of a room is that?
It's fairly big, but depends on how many people.
right.
Does the Harvey Wheeler Center have a microphone?
That's a good question.
I think they might.
They didn't have a screen or anything. We think they might have a microphone.
I don't know. I think it's worth asking.
Okay.
Let me know if they don't, and I'll talk to Bobby about bringing that sound system we used in Steve's tent.
Okay.
Thanks,
If we
Dan.
did it. Sure.
Yeah, I'll ask. Cool.
Should we go over what we just want the speakers to quickly cover?
Yeah,
Like,
sure.
brief like intro about yourself, what's your farm basics,
Yeah.
and I mean, want to talk about like what's your experience with tillage or not tillage? Like,
How has tillage affected you?
how does tillage affect your life? We do have, just to let everybody know, we did make a online form for people to submit questions in advance, and when we've been sending out the information to like different places to advertise, we have been including that link. Whether or not they post that link has been a little up and down, but that is also available on the Ag Day website. So if people go there for more information, they can click to see where they can submit a question. I have gotten it. It's in Concord Living. It's on the Concord Ag Day website. It's on the Concord Ag Committee website, and it's on the town calendar. I did submit it also to the bridge, but I haven't heard anything back from them.
They'd have a pretty good description and everything.
I hope so.
Yeah, we had pretty nice turnout
Advertise.
last year. How many? I have no way of sensing. I'm not good at sensing how many people, but do you think we had 50 people maybe, or?
47.
I think that's a good estimate.
I think probably what's going to help is as we get closer doing a lot of social media. So like having all the different farms send it out to their channels is probably the best way to get people. I think we also can send it to the different garden clubs. And then Steve, you talked about inviting the different ag groups from other towns.
Yeah, actually, there's Lincoln is having a event for Lincoln farmers, which I'm one of because we farm some in Lincoln. And I thought I'd present it there and invite people.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Do you know when that's is, Steve?
Pardon me?
Do you know when that is, or?
Geez, I was going to say I think it's Saturday, but that's I think it might. I don't know. Whether it's this weekend or next weekend. I'm still getting organized here after getting home, but I am planning to go whichever time it is.
Should we invite like Carlisle group?
Yeah, I think before we've invited Carlisle and Sudbury.
Yeah, okay.
How do we reach them? Do we have contact info for them?
I mean,
I can get a contact in Sudbury, all right.
I think that Andrew Rogers from Clark Farm is involved in Carlisle, so I could tell him about it.
Okay.
Is there any way we can get any estimate of how many people to expect before they show up at the door?
The more outreach you do, the less sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting topic, so it might actually draw people if I don't know. I have no idea.
The community gardeners have gotten notification of it.
Oh.
And at a meeting we had earlier this month, there was a lot of interest in it.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that Delia, she had asked if she could tell her community gardeners that are based in Lincoln or somewhere where it's
Lincoln. Isn't it she at Codman?
Yes. Yeah. Right. So, and I said yes, and she said people would be interested. So I did warn Anna from Gaining Ground that I thought I think the gardening contingent is going to have more questions for her about like the how-to of it, the gardening aspect that might not be like the focus of the rest of the meeting, but we could definitely. I told her that was largely like the types of questions she would probably be fielding.
Mm.
They just don't want to buy tillers because they're expensive.
Right.
Is there anything else we need to pick up the key the day of?
Yeah, we pick up the keys. I think it's like between 2 and 5. I can go over there.
Yeah, I can do it too. Steve, you'd mentioned maybe providing a small amount of refreshments. Is that something you could still do?
I'm sorry, what was that?
I think you'd mentioned a long time ago that maybe you could provide a little bit of refreshments.
Oh, yeah, I think we could do that.
That'd be great. I mean, it's hard to know. We don't know how many people, but just a little.
Yeah, I mean,
little
gee, we
something.
could have 35, we could have twice that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at least a little something.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, maybe this topic would draw more, but I did feel like in the years before COVID, it was pretty steady. And I want to say it was like 40-ish people when we would do things. And I was always surprised that seemed like a lot then. That doesn't seem like crazy for this. But that's just my guess. That's like guessing the jelly beans in the jar, maybe.
Yeah, I feel like it could be more than that. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like it could. Yeah, I feel like
When
that's
we had it in the school auditorium, it wasn't empty. And then I can remember having it at the Wheeler Center where there were definitely more than 4 rows of 10 people. There were
That's true. There were.
We're like
Maybe it's
75.
like 60. Yeah,
Yeah.
70. Yeah, that's true.
And then Melissa, you'd also mentioned that Gaining Ground wanted a table, and
Yes.
who else?
And Delia was interested in a table, but she did have a conflict, so she wasn't sure. But I said maybe we could put out stuff for her.
Yeah, definitely.
Those are the only two people I've heard about tables from. But we could set up some, extra around the outside.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Brian's convinced me we should be prepared for 60.
I think so.
Yeah.
I'll count this time. I don't know anything else to do.
Like a clicker when everybody walks in.
Yeah. Did I already count you?
Have you had any questions come in yet?
No, I just checked.
Because that could be a clue too. How many?
I know.
Till when?
So when?
Hey, there's a title for
Brian.
you.
Next week.
So you think we're gonna, this is a side, but wet year, dry year?
Come on. I'm not going on the record.
God.
Yes, wet year, dry year, for sure.
For the
I'm worried it's gonna be wet.
I hope not. See, that's a question, like, do you prefer a wet year or dry year?
Yeah.
I say
Dry.
dry.
Does anybody here say wet?
Okay, what else should we ask for these panelist questions, just so that we could form, like, let them know, like, okay, you probably each have about 5 minutes and try to cover these things as the basics. We have info about
5
yourself.
minutes seems kind of short. But maybe they make up time during questions.
I was thinking that they would be answering a lot of the questions.
Yeah.
We could do a little more, but once you talk for more than maybe it could be more than 5 minutes, but then you're like giving a talk that you have to
Prep
more
for.
prepare for, whereas we thought it'd be more of a question thing where you introduce, I don't know, people, I could be wrong, other people would have other ideas, where they introduce themselves, what kind of tillage practices they've been doing, and then people could ask questions, knowing that there was a range of farmers to answer about what.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, when I was at Cornell, I had 2 speech classes. And one you had 20 minutes to give a speech, and the other one you had 3 minutes.
Uh-huh.
So you can fit into a slot that is allowed.
Yeah.
It's like a
you-
gas, it expands.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can fit a lot into 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be so interesting. I'm really looking forward to it.
I think that's a representative view right there.
Yeah,
I do.
I'm every woman.
Yes. I would know you
Hardly,
anywhere.
Emily, hardly.
Is there anything else we need to go over for this? We feel pretty good.
Have you women all recovered from celebrating Women's Day?
Never.
Which
There's
was
a whole
yesterday?
month. There's
You
a whole
must know.
month devoted.
You'll have to recover that much longer. I haven't recovered yet.
Brian's been partying hard. All right, should we move on? We're gonna have one more meeting before we have this event. So if anything comes up, we will have time to discuss it. Is that
I
correct?
guess the only thing, I don't know, is it overkill to go there ahead of time, a day ahead, or I mean, scope it out with the equipment, or like we did at Steve's, or is you think it's kind of going to be so straightforward we won't need to?
I mean, if you get a microphone, you have to tie into the PA system, right? And so knowing how that works, but I mean, the question is whether they will make somebody available as we enter to understand what kind of infrastructure they have.
Probably be worth a visit ahead of time to get familiar with what's there.
Yeah, I think it probably would make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, Melissa, you want to ask if there's a time we could come by and look at it?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I'll ask. I think that from looking at the calendar, like you can see, it seems like there are times that nothing is scheduled there that we could probably go by.
Anybody else? Anything we didn't cover? All right, moving on. Quick Ag Day logistics update. Don't have much. Melissa submitted the banner application, so we can put that up with the light department. I think we're just wait. The town manager's office hasn't signed off yet on Ag Day, which I'm sure they will do. They did this last year too, where they waited quite a bit. But we need them officially to sign off on Ag Day and sign off on covering the police detail and sign off on covering the light plant fee. So hopefully that will happen before Melissa goes on maternity leave.
Is it the Saturday after Labor Day again?
Yes, it's the 9th.
Just to let you know, I was asked by Stefan Bader, who's involved with the library, about the Ag Day date. And he said they're all geared up to sell books. Maybe you already know this. They he claims it's been a wonderful thing to partner with, or a wonderful event to be part of for the library.
That's great. I did reach out to the library, to the group that had coordinated the concert last time, to let them know what date we picked, and they couldn't say 100% that they were going to do it again, but they were like 95% sure that it was going to happen again.
That's good.
So I think we're really, for Ag Day, we're looking pretty good. We just really need the town to officially sign off, but I'm sure they will. But this happened last year too. I don't think they signed off until July. Yeah.
That's not nice.
No, it's not. We're all ready to go in December.
Right.
So the police department is totally on, but they're like, you're set. Everything's great. We're in the calendar. We're good to go. It's just the manager's office.
Yeah, similarly, so the light plant reserve the dates we want, but then I haven't seen any of the emails that have to come after that where people forward the actual application I submitted with the right signatures from the building department and the town office and everything. There's none of those, but our spot's reserved, so I feel like it'll eventually
get there. Hopefully before July.
Does Concord have a new town manager at this point who may not be familiar with the process?
Oh, she was here last year.
Yeah. And
Okay.
the staff is all the same too.
Okay.
I think that was actually a little bit of the holdup last year, is she was interim for a little bit and then it was official, so that might have been part of the holdup last year, but I think the general holdup is it's just not a very big priority for them.
Should be.
Should be. They're holding Ag Day up as like a model all over town for like the great event of town. So I'm like, come on.
It's like apple pie, for Christ's sake.
So wholesome. Yeah, I think the only thing we talked about with Ag Day that we might want to address probably as we get a little bit closer is somewhat defining nonprofit, sort of like the bounds of what we would want a nonprofit to be, like topic wise addressing, to be sort of invited to Ag Day. Just as we have more and more interest in coming, we have more and more applications from nonprofits that might not really fit under the Ag Day umbrella. So we might want to get a little more specific about which kind of groups we would allow to be there. But we don't have to cover that now. It's just something to think about.
Yeah, and choose like a number of groups we think we can accommodate so that it doesn't creep up, like plan where the farms want to be and then count the spaces that we would have.
Exactly. So maybe we can shelve that till April or May, but something to put on a future agenda.
I was trying to think, did all of them that came last year have some connection with agriculture or the environment?
Did what? Sorry, Steve.
Did all the nonprofits that showed up last year have some connection to agriculture?
Nope.
Town.
They sort of fell into a few different categories. One being sort of like agriculture or environmental
Right.
nature. And then there was some that were more like small business oriented, which, we're all small businesses. We did have some interest from like cancer groups, which felt a little more outside the bounds of this. But we didn't have space, so it was like I didn't have to say no because of that reason. We just didn't have space. But I do think that increasingly we've had more interest from other nonprofit groups since then, also. So I do want to have some sort of like structure.
So how do we word it so that, what's the area, what's the connection, I guess?
Yeah, I think we have to maybe have like a little, like, I think last year I had I don't know how to say it, like almost like we accept, I had like a little paragraph in there that was sort of like, we accept nonprofits that cover certain topic areas. So we like listed out the topic areas that you would be related to. And then of course, also, if you've been there before, you get a higher priority than someone who is new. And then beyond that, if we have space, you might be considered.
So
That
nice
sounds
to be so
reasonable.
popular.
What did you say? So nice to be so popular. Yes.
Yeah.
What a good problem to have.
So should there be like a list of criteria?
Yeah, some sort of,
I mean, it's nice to have the town there drumming up members of committees, because that benefits us. Because I mean, as the ag committee, that's one of our ongoing kind of issues is
Right.
maintaining membership.
but I think having the select board have a table there is important also, because then they become very large supporters of us.
Yeah,
I think we just want to be sure that the ag part of it doesn't become second fiddle.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I think like
And I
just,
think gardening fits right in there, like
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
garden ag.
I feel like the nonprofits that are around gardening, around the environment, like those sort of seem like natural fits. Even
Right.
even the small business stuff seems like very like a natural fit. It's like, but once we get on the outskirts of that, it starts getting a little fuzzy.
What's an example of the small business?
Like the I'm trying to think of like what did we have there last year? We had like a
Looking at the list, I'm looking at the list of people from last year. I don't really see, small business.
wasn't any small business. I think maybe we had somebody interested.
Yeah.
There was like community.
So what about the League of Women Voters?
Yeah, that well, and that's one that's been there forever.
Been there forever. The Land Trust has definitely been there forever.
Well, the land trust seems like a pretty natural to
Yeah.
extend it.
Yeah,
So
Nature,
that's an easy one. Land acquisition, like protecting land. You know,
Protecting open land.
right, right.
they own quite a bit of farmland too.
exactly too. But yeah, I think like the League of Women Voters is actually a good example of one they've come to Ag Day for many, many years. So I don't want to kick them out, but like
Right.
another organization that might be in a similar position where they don't really have a good connection to agriculture.
Mhm.
Someone from the Daughters of the American Revolution was inquiring as to how they could join next year. I didn't know what to say.
Right.
Anyway,
Like that.
That's an example of a group, I guess, that has some interest in participating, and I don't know what to say about it.
Well, here's one approach. Look at, Melissa's looking at the list from last year, and
Yeah.
maybe that list is already too long for next year. So decide on the right number of nonprofits and maybe the ones you'd most like to see, and approach them first.
Right, like maybe we don't have to worry so much about criteria if we have no open spaces.
Yes.
Like if we have, like,
Already got them
yeah,
filled.
from this list, if we don't want to cut very many people out, but we want to decrease it. So say we had 13 and we try to get it down, looking at the spaces to 9 or something. Yeah, maybe we don't have to
Well, I think it's a
come
combo
up
of,
with much because
but then there's like, what if we have like, say the other garden club now would like to participate? They've already reached out.
yeah.
So like, I feel like if we have one garden club, we probably should offer the other garden club. Like,
Right.
it gets a little tricky.
There's 2 Concord garden clubs.
Yeah, there's the West Concord.
Sounds
Garden
like you're getting in the middle of a really
It's a
intense-
little sticky. Last year was very sticky. So
Oh,
I
yeah, I mean, I had someone who wanted to be on it, like coming to the farm stand and very,
Yeah.
very persistent
Pestering you.
at work. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm. So as always, some middle ground, some middle way is probably the best solution. But just simply keeping in mind a number of spaces, I think would make a difference.
I think it's also a little bit hard since sometimes the number of spaces varies depending on how many farms come. So that's the other, like, if Silverleaf wants to come, of course they get priority. But if Silverleaf doesn't come, then we have a space, like,
Right.
something like
Well,
that.
in some nonprofit, they all double up, don't they, in a space?
Pretty
And
much
sometimes triple up.
Well, they were very, they just want to be there.
Yeah. So
So I
maybe we
think-
should work on our map first of where would be ideal for the farms. Like we're gonna reposition Steve. So we could get that set and then count. So we could maybe reach out to the farms earlier than we usually do and see and get confirmation.
I
of,
think
like,
too, if
yeah.
we also just tightened up a little bit, like the thing I'd written last year, just make that a little more official. So that we have something to like sort of point to when somebody's like, oh, I want to come, and it'd be like, well, do you fit one of these categories?
Right.
And if the answer is no, then it's a lot easier to be like, only if we have space, and then we might not have space. So
So
How many,
How
do you
do
know
we-
how many, sorry. Do you know how many farms participated last year?
I don't have it right in front of me. Melissa, do you have it?
10.
10?
Uh,
Just
Yeah,
very good.
just
Sometimes there's only 7, I thought.
It varies. I mean, last year, Arena was a last minute ad,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think it just depends who's really able to.
the pollinators are planning on it already. I hope
Yeah.
we get.
Well, I think that's the thing. If you've come before, the sort of, especially if you've come for years, then it's like
And that's a natural fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense.
All right. Well, we can talk about it next meeting too. I'll put it back on the agenda, but just something to keep in mind. The bag fee update. All right. I think last we talked about this, the health department had sort of kicked it back to us, saying either to talk to the select board or maybe we would have to bring an article to town meeting. I finally reached Henry Dane, who is our select board representative,
Mhm.
who kicked me back to the health department. So that's where we are on that one.
It's too late for this town meeting to submit an article.
It is. It would be for 2024. We'd be looking at. I did just like casually at the chairs breakfast talk about it a little bit, and everybody was like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense. That needs to be dealt with." You know, farms don't have a POS system necessarily, plus the sales tax issue. So they were like, "Oops, that was an oversight. How do we fix it?" But I'm not sure there's a clear way forward at this point without having to do an amendment to the article through town meeting. I was really hoping we wouldn't have to go that route. I'm still hoping that the health department can figure out how to deal with it like they do in Cambridge and Somerville. But no word yet.
Cambridge and Somerville have similar bylaws to what we have.
Yeah. Since the health department is given the authority in the law, the health department decided basically to count only handled bags, not unhandled bags. Like a paper bag with a handle would count towards the law, but a regular paper bag would not, as a way to basically exempt farmers markets out of it. And since the health department is given authority by the law, they can do that. And I'm not quite sure why the Concord Health Department thinks they don't have the authority to do it, but I'm hoping that will get resolved.
A bag without a handle sounds very inconvenient at a farmer's market.
I mean, we only give bags without handles at the farm. We don't
Yeah.
ever buy bags with handles because they're expensive.
Yeah. I was just picturing the farmer's market. I don't know. I don't go to farmer's markets. So.
It just makes things, you know, there's a way then forward to offer a bag and not have to deal with it.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure if we keep getting kicked around. I'm not sure what the answer is. So
Well, no one else is focused on it yet, which makes it hard too.
yeah, I mean, it hasn't been implemented yet. It won't be implemented until it goes through the state legislature. So.
And I mean, at this point, we have at least alerted a lot of people about the concern. So it
Yes.
won't be like starting from scratch if things start to move forward and then we approach people.
Correct.
At that time.
So at least that's a positive.
So when you say, Liza, that it has to be passed by the legislature, do we contact our legislators?
No, it has to go through. It has to. Sometimes this is where I don't quite understand, but because it's basically a fee or something, the mass legislator has to approve like a home. What are they called? I can't remember off the top of my head. It's like a home rule law or something, and it has to go through there first before it can be implemented in town. But they've been implemented in lots of towns and cities outside of there's no reason it wouldn't.
So they wouldn't be tinkering with the language. They would just say, yes, you may go ahead and do this.
You may go ahead and charge a fee. Here you go.
There you go.
So it's kind of similar to like the fossil fuel thing where municipalities wanted to say no more fossil fuel infrastructure and the state said no. Right? The state has the opportunity to say,
Yeah.
no, you can't do that.
You know, but they've already at this point I would say
They've
tons
already
of
allowed it,
places
yeah.
allowed it, yeah. And like exactly this, the 10 cents fee. Yeah.
Is there a price established on the bags?
Yeah, 10 cents. You can charge higher if you want to, but you have to charge.
And you have to pay tax on that, right?
You have to pay tax on it, and you have.
If you sold one bag for 10 or 15 cents, it wouldn't qualify for tax.
It's a 1 cent tax. It qualifies.
Really?
Yep.
It doesn't have to get up to 1%.
Nope.
Liza, did you send the letter that you wrote to the select board?
I sent it to Henry because he was our select board representative,
Yeah,
but I can send it to the larger select board.
Yeah,
I think maybe you better.
Well, how much is the tax on 10 cents?
It's 1 cent. They round up. So it's 11 cents, or you can charge 9 cents and you forego one of your pennies to give it to the state. And instead you can keep the 9 cents, or you could keep the 10 cents and charge an additional cent. So I did talk to Matt, what's Matt's last name?
Johnson.
Johnson, about it, and he was very understanding and was like, oh yeah, we got to figure out how to fix that. But he's not going to be a select board member soon.
Right,
So,
he's
unfortunately.
getting off. Still, there are other select board members.
Yes.
But maybe a happy suggestion, send a letter. I don't even know whether you want to be on the agenda at a select board meeting. I'm not really sure how that works.
Not either.
Yeah.
I was hoping Henry would give me a little more guidance. I
Well,
mean,
exactly.
no.
I
Basically-
did write it back.
I usually just do the select board meetings, and Henry is so involved with his celebration that he seems to ignore about everything else time after time at the, in terms of his liaisons, etc. So I'd strongly suggest that you ask some other people on the board, the whole crew. Because, yeah, he's just been, we're not the only people that have said that about with Henry right now, because
Not a
he's
lot.
doing that
Not a lot.
250th
Yeah.
for the battles, and that seems to be where all his attention is.
I mean, he's
On
got
the
a
other
lot of
hand-
boards that he is responsible for, so he definitely
Yeah,
has.
no, and that's a big chunk of stuff.
But on
Right.
the other hand, if he has sent you back to the health department, it might be better to get some resolution from the health department, or even just who's the decider?
Well,
Is
that's,
it the select board? I mean, I
I think that's the problem right now. No one knows.
nobody knows.
But I can reach out to both select board members and just see if I can get more people aware of the issue. We feel good with that one. And then I can also, I mean, I did write Henry back, and Jill Block, who's the head of the Board of the Health.
Sounds like a good plan.
Thanks, Dan.
Sounds like a lot of work for a penny.
It's not the penny, it's the logistics.
Yeah, it's like charging
also the-
sales tax.
But
for
we
like-
basically, we do
for-
have to invest in a POS system, because you also have to give a receipt that says what it is. And like, we don't have a POS system at Hutchins Farm, so we would have to then invest in getting one.
Could
Just,
you like just have a pre-made thing, like a little card or something you throw in the bag?
we
charge-
did that, and we actually did that, and when Cambridge first implemented it, we
Yeah.
were doing that. The problem,
Did they
the
give you
combination of having to count how many bags you sold so that then you can report your sales tax on it when you're not reporting any other sales tax, and then giving everybody a little slip of paper. The Cambridge Health Department was like, this is stupid. So,
Hooray,
Did
hooray.
they let you get around it, or did they in Cambridge?
so in
Make-
Cambridge, they decided if the paper bag didn't have a handle on it, they weren't going to count it. So only paper bags with handles counted for this rule. So that's how they,
That
that's
means
how
you
they
just
work.
buy paper bags without handles and you're.
Or cut them off?
Yeah. I mean, they're much cheaper if you buy them without the handles, so it saves us all money.
Oh, gosh.
All right, I will work on that. Moving on, committee members who are about to end their term and are up for renewal are me, Steve, and Dan.
When we vote that you all are reinstated.
Well, I think we do, you do have to renominate us and re-vote on us if you would like us to continue.
We do herefore.
Yeah.
Dan, are you willing to continue?
I'm happy to.
Steve?
What's that?
I said, Steve, are you willing to
Oh.
continue?
I think I can hopefully survive another year.
We sure hope you can.
Is it
Please
another
do.
year or 3 years?
Well, I'll shoot for that.
It's 3 years. We take it 1 year at a time over here.
But you have to keep wearing the hat.
Steve, when I was going to California this past weekend, there was a guy boarding my flight who I thought was you because he had your hat. I was like, Steve's going to California too? Oh no, that's
Now, see,
They-
sometimes I want to go incognito, I just take it off.
would somebody like to nominate us?
I hereby nominate these three people for renewal.
Yes, and I second it.
All in favor?
Aye, aye, aye.
Aye.
We
Aye.
agree.
Peanut gallery says aye.
Sounds good. All right, you're stuck with us.
Wow.
Other business? Nothing, guys.
No,
Oh, yeah, we talk any more about the 250?
Oh, yeah, we should, well, we still have plenty of time. They are working on, so I am on the outreach committee for that, and they are working on a like official calendar so that if you have an event that you would like to be part of the 250th celebration, you can submit your event to them. Right now they're kind of working on criteria, and I think that involves a lawyer slightly because they are a little bit worried about groups applying to have an event in connection with the 250th that either apply and maybe are not something that they would like to be officially connected with, or apply
Proud
and
Boys?
then,
Proud Boys?
yeah, exactly. Or then apply
Concord for
And then-
Ukraine.
and then are denied, and so then want to make like a public spectacle of being denied. So I know that there is talk around that. I think the parade is also having a similar discussion about how that works. But if we were to come up with an event, which I hope we will in some fashion in the next 2 years, we would then just we would apply and be like, this is, we want to be part of the 250th calendar and sign up for it. They're not going to deny us. They would very much like an ag committee event. Definitely. So.
Well, I think I mentioned before, I think it'd be very appropriate when the Minuteman was a farmer standing by his plow.
Yes. I think the Shimonis mentioned too, maybe doing something by the monument that's out on Old Bedford Road. They have the committee has been sort of interested in highlighting all the different monuments around town, so they were sort of intrigued by us bringing attention to that one. But whatever we do, they'll be on board with, I'm sure. But if anybody has any great ideas, speak up.
I've got a question on a different topic.
Yeah.
Can I, in the February minutes, there was a mention of an RFP for the Barrett Farm. I'm curious, what are they asking? What's the, it's the Natural Resources Commission? What's the parameters? Are they putting it up for lease, open or not?
Melissa can answer this.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm supposed to discuss, but it is published in the Concord Bridge. You can read all the parameters. It is a lease starting March of 2024. And they published all I mean, not the complete RFP, but the general parameters in the bridge.
But basically,
What's-
Barrett Mill had to reapply.
What is the term of the present lease, and what's the term of that they're looking for?
It's the same, so our lease was 5 years with the option to renew for another 5 years. So it'll be 10 years in March of 2024, and then this lease is a 5-year lease, I think, with the option to renew for another 5 years.
Okay. What's the Concord Bridge, you say? I know the Concord, oh, okay, the new paper, the new
New
paper.
paper.
Yeah, that's where it was advertised. So it was in there a couple different weeks in the back there.
Okay.
Do you get priority, Melissa?
We are applying. I think that's.
That's all you could say, yes.
If you have an option, I would think,
Are there other applicants?
Okay, lie down.
if you have an option, I would think that means something.
I don't
Yeah,
know if
I
there's
don't-
anything any of us can do, but I'm sure we'd all love to help if there's a way we can help. So.
Thanks. Yeah, Delia did like remind me that I wasn't supposed to discuss.
She has to keep quiet.
So it was a 5-year, the original one was 5 years with the 5-year option. But
Yeah.
did you exercise the option?
We did, yeah. So we're
Okay.
in our 9th year now.
Okay. You know, when the town leases farmland, I don't know if they put it out for RFP when a lease expires, but I think their practice for farmland is just, roll it over to the person who had it before. Maybe that's because nobody else is interested in leasing town-owned farmland.
I think the Barrett's Mill property is different.
Yeah, well, it's definitely different,
Yeah.
but just the precedent of their practice, I think. Well, Steve would know. Steve, you must rent some land that's town owned.
Yeah, I think there's a realization on the part of the towns around now that it's not good to have land turn over frequently and not have some security for the operator.
Yeah.
Right.
So you don't find yourself bidding against somebody else for land that you've used in the past.
Not generally, but I think it's because there haven't been too many people interested.
I don't think they publicize it when the leases expire. It's not like they're putting out RFPs saying,
But I think the structure of the entire Barrett's Mill property is different. Than
yeah,
the-
I think it is.
that's
That's true.
part. Like it's built into how the town acquired it.
Right. And
Right.
it's the farmer lives there and,
Yeah.
it's a whole deal.
And it involves like multiple departments, so. Sorry, Melissa, we won't talk about it too much. We
So-
stressing it out.
Did you ever figure out, you were talking several meetings ago about maybe having to raise your prices. Did you ever make a decision or figure out what to do about that on your vegetables or?
Us in particular,
I'm sorry, what?
people in general, or us at Barrett's
Oh,
Mill?
no, Vero, Steve had been asking
Oh,
about prices.
that was a question?
Well, you had been asking about whether people had raised their prices, and I was wondering if you've had to raise your prices at all with, additional costs.
Yeah, we have some, but not enough, but the margins are shrunk.
I'll tell you,
ahead.
there's nowhere else in town you can go for a cup of coffee and a scone for something like $3.79, 69 cents or whatever it is. So you could easily, you might charge more.
He's trying to keep inflation down.
I've always been anti-inflation and we tried not to raise prices for a number of years. And this just year we've had to.
Yeah. I mean, cost of workers alone, it's all prices are up, but labor is really up.
Yeah, we increased ours in the fall for the CSA for this coming year quite a bit.
Yeah.
How about that diesel?
Everything.
Just fuel costs alone.
Diesel was like twice.
Or like we heated the greenhouse to like cure the sweet potatoes. And we're like, those are now like $1 million sweet potatoes, I guess. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, what happened?
Well, you know, our biggest cost is the labor, and, you know, we have high school kids and college kids and people between school years, and it's pretty much $16 an hour. I don't know what anybody else experiences.
Yeah, we couldn't get people for 15. So, I mean, we actually raised like our sort of minimum wage is like $17 an hour now. And it's sort of hard because, you know, if you have some high school kid, then and they come back the next year, then you have to raise it even more. So,
So you start at 15 and then some people get more.
we couldn't even get people this last year at 15. We were doing like 17.
Mhm.
But
Well, the H2A is 17 plus housing and transportation. And we've added half the cost of health insurance on top of that.
did your did you complete your building, Steve? Your house?
We're coming down to the end, but there's still, it takes a while to get through the permitting, and then after we get the occupancy permit, which I hope will happen in about 2 weeks, then it takes about 3 weeks minimum to go through the federal bureaucracy,
Wow.
plus immigration in Jamaica.
So,
So the
Steve,
guys are going to be late coming. We know that. We don't know how late.
you know how you put that pump house over, you build that structure over?
Yeah,
Okay, I was meeting some people from the state to walk this conservation restriction, and I said, go to down Sudbury Road and you'll see a telephone pole and a pump house, a little building, and take a left at the driveway right across the street. That day you decide to take the building away.
we had to shrink it.
It's
We
like,
had to make it smaller.
Yeah. We did.
Why?
Well, we started out, we wanted to house the stuff and have the controls inside. And then as we got into electrical codes, they had to have at least 6 feet of headroom inside, so it went up a little bit. And then you have to have 3 feet in all directions around the main switch and a couple other things like that. So it grew a little bit from where I projected, and that didn't please some of the land trust folks. So we ended up putting the controls on the outside and boxing them in so we could make it lower. And the telephone pole is going to come out because it has to go underground. We wanted to do that to begin with, but the light department said there was so much stuff on that pole, they couldn't put any more. So they put the pole in and ran the wire to that. And then afterwards, when we asked them again, why, I guess we can do it underground. But
so
then
this is all at your expense?
by then the DPW wouldn't let you cut through the sidewalk until April. So it's a progress in work still.
Do you have a pressure tank in there that's you don't have to heat it, right? You drain everything in the winter?
Right, yeah. The pump's down the bottom of the well and there's a pressure tank there and all we need is a connection.
And the cattle to feed, to keep watered, right?
Well, we'll water there and we'll use it for irrigation also.
Oh, okay.
Gonna
So
have-
we won't be
have
pumping
to-
from the river anymore.
you'll have
That's
some
like a half
more.
mile of pipe you won't have to lay. isn't it?
Right,
So the well is big enough to pump for irrigation.
yeah.
Oh, good.
Does anybody have any public comment?
Just thanks for the, letting us join you for the tour the other day. That was really nice. And it was really nice to meet people too.
Yeah, it was awesome to see you in person, Lois.
Well,
Yeah, it was a nice tour over there.
Yeah, and it let us, I think sometimes we don't realize how big some of the greenhouses are. You know, like I didn't realize he had so many, because when you drive by, you just see it's long, but then there's another one and another one that goes
Right.
back. So, I mean, I thought that was fascinating. The other thing I think most of us were fascinated about was the fact that we always thinking of plants and light and the amount of light to have them grow, but their main thing, I mean, obviously the light is important, but the temperature, that was a mind blower how small the parameters are on temperature to
Right.
be successful, or what, works for Dan. And also it was really nice to see, a family farm still being a family farm.
But 70 years ago, a fellow by the name of Walter Lufkin farmed there with greenhouses there. And he had the old glass houses. There was one or two more than they have now, but they were smaller, so probably about the same area. And he grew primarily tomatoes in the greenhouses.
Huh.
And we had 80 cows we were milking. And during the months of January and February, we used straw for bedding and sold the manure every day to the greenhouses in the neighborhood. And that was Lufkin's and Brigham's and Eisenhower and Wheeler's. I don't think Harrod's ever got any. But we'd get a truckload every day. We'd dump outside the house, nice sloppy wet manure and straw. And they'd have to fork it all in through the side windows and spread it around the bed. But at Lufkin's, he was the only one that kept a mule. And he used a mule to plow the soil inside the greenhouses.
Wow.
That was a mule's job for the year.
That's like an old time rototiller.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because all the old greenhouses, they had coal-fired boilers and they had clay tile under the soil. And they put steam through the clay tile to sterilize the soil. And that would kill all the diseases and weed seeds and stuff. They put a top over the soil, put the steam underneath it. And then there was a difference of opinion. Lufkin's always wanted to put the manure in after they'd sterilized. He said it puts life back in the soil. And then the others all want to put the manure in and sterilize afterwards so it kill any weed seed. So there always been differences of opinion on these things.
That's awesome, Steve.
So they
Very
were
funny.
growing in those greenhouses in the ground?
Yeah. Yeah, it was all in the ground. Some that was raised bed. There was a whole center of the greenhouse and a lower walkway around the side. But it was all in the ground.
That's why you had to sterilize, because after you grew tomatoes for 1 year, and you
Right.
sterilize so that the
Right.
next year would still, it wouldn't
Right.
croak.
And they
Yeah.
probably didn't have the resistant varieties,
Right.
for all these things back then.
But the mules could fit in the greenhouses. These greenhouses weren't big hoop houses. They had pipes supporting the roof.
Right.
So you couldn't put a tractor in there, but you could put a mule in there.
Yeah, I wish we had that cow manure now in Concord.
I wish I had it now too.
All right, guys. Next meeting, April 13th. That look good? That's the second Thursday.
Okay. Good.
We're good on that.
Sounds good.
All right, we got anything, any other comment? Good. Anybody want a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second it.
Meeting.